wanted me broken. They wanted me small, silent, insignificant. They whispered in the shadows, laughed while I stumbled, and smirked while I bled. But they didn't realize that every cut, every sneer, every ounce of pain they inflicted wasn't breaking me, it was building me. You see, monsters aren't born. They're forged. And the monster I became? It wasn't a choice. It was their creation. They asked for the monster. And now, they have it. Life doesn't come with instructions. It throws you into the chaos, demands you adapt, and punishes you when you don't. For years, I played by their rules. I tried to fit into their box, to mold myself into what they wanted. I smiled while I didn't feel like smiling. I bowed my head while I wanted to scream. I sacrificed my dreams to uphold theirs. But what happens when you push someone too far? What happens when the chains you've wrapped around their soul start to snap? They don't teach you that, do they? They don't prepare you for the day the person you've beaten down finally stands up, finally fights back, finally becomes something you can no longer control. Let me take you back to where it all began. To the days when I was naive, hopeful, eager to please. Back then, I thought the world was fair. I thought kindness would be met with kindness, that hard work would be rewarded, that people would see my worth if I just proved myself enough. I was wrong. The first cracks started small. A cruel comment here, a betrayal there. Friends who turned their backs, opportunities stolen, dreams laughed at. I told myself it didn't matter, that I just had to try harder. Be better. Be what they wanted me to be. But no matter how much I gave, it was never enough. They always wanted more. More of my time, my energy, my soul. And when I couldn't give it, they called me weak, lazy, unworthy. There's always a breaking point. A moment when everything changes. For me, it wasn't one big event, it was 1,000 tiny cuts that finally pushed me over the edge. The day I realized that no matter what I did, I would never be enough for them. Do you know what that kind of realization does to a person? It shatters them. Or, in my case, it sets something dark inside of them free. I stopped caring about their approval. I stopped caring about their rules, their expectations, their opinions. I stopped being their puppet and started being something else. Something raw. Something fierce. Something they couldn't control. When you strip away everything, when you take someone's hope, their trust, their belief in humanity, you leave behind something primal. Something that doesn't care about right or wrong, about kindness or cruelty. You leave behind survival. That's what I became. A survivor. A fighter. A force they could no longer ignore. They called me a monster. They said I was heartless, ruthless, dangerous. But they never stopped to ask why. They never looked in the mirror to see the reflection of their own cruelty staring back at them. Because the truth is, the monster they see is just the consequence of their actions. The embodiment of every lie, every betrayal, every moment of pain they inflicted. Now, I stand tall. Unapologetic. Unbroken. They can't hurt me anymore because I've become everything they feared. They wanted someone to blame, someone to break, someone to control, and now they've got monsters staring them in the face. But here's the thing about monsters, we don't forget. Every scar is a reminder. Every wound is a lesson. And every step forward is a declaration that we will not be defeated. I didn't ask to be this way. But I won't apologize for it either. Every insult they hurled, every burden they placed on me, it was like a link in a chain. A chain they thought would bind me forever. But here's the truth they never understood, chains don't just restrain. They can also forge. They thought they were making me weak, but in reality, they were tempering me like steel and fire. Every moment of pain became fuel for the monster inside. Every failure they celebrated became a lesson I used to grow stronger. They forged the chains, and I used them to climb. There's a moment when the noise fades, when the chaos settles, and all you're left with is silence. It's in that silence where you find your true self. Silence is a strange thing. At first, it feels oppressive, like the weight of the world pressing down on your chest. It's the absence of their voices, their laughter, their cruel words. But over time, I realized something profound. The silence wasn't my enemy. It was my sanctuary. In the silence, I heard truths I had ignored for years. Truths about who I was, about what I wanted, and about the strength that had been lying dormant inside me all along. They thought they could drown me in loneliness, but what they didn't realize is that solitude doesn't weaken you. It sharpens you. It strips away the distractions and forces you to confront the raw, unfiltered version of yourself. It was in the silence that I built myself back up. Piece by piece, brick by brick. The foundation they tried to tear down became unshakable. And when I emerged from that silence, I was no longer afraid of it. Instead, I carried it with me, a weapon, a shield, a reminder of my resilience. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you earn. And earning it? That's a brutal process. It's forged in the fires of rejection, loss, and pain. It's what's left when everything else has been stripped away. Every time they knocked me down, I got back up. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Every time they laughed at my failures, every time they celebrated my pain, I used it as fuel. Resilience isn't glamorous. It's not a moment of triumph with a swelling soundtrack. It's raw. It's ugly. It's clawing your way back from the edge when every part of you wants to give up. But that's the thing about resilience, it grows. Like a muscle, every time you push it to its limit, it gets stronger. And eventually, it becomes unbreakable. That's what they don't understand. They think they've beaten you, but all they've done is make you unstoppable. They see a monster when they look at me. But what do monsters see? I see their fear, their regret, their disbelief. I see a world that rewards cruelty and punishes kindness, a world where the strong prey on the weak and then blame them for their suffering. I see their reflection staring back at me. The monster they fear isn't separate from them, it's a product of their actions, their choices. They called me heartless, but my heart was broken by their betrayal. They called me ruthless, but my ruthlessness was born out of necessity. They called me dangerous, but they're the ones who taught me how to fight. The monster isn't a villain. The monster is a mirror, reflecting everything they've tried to deny about themselves. What happens when you face the worst the world can throw at you? When you've endured the unendurable? You become unstoppable. Fear loses its power. Pain becomes familiar. Failure becomes a stepping stone. They thought they could break me, but all they did was temper me into something they couldn't control. I don't just survive now, I thrive. I move forward with purpose, with clarity, with a fire that can't be extinguished. They tried to stop me, but now I'm an unstoppable force. And when an unstoppable force meets the world that created it, there's no going back. The monster they created isn't just a reflection of their actions, it's a warning. A reminder that you can only push someone so far before they push back. It's a testament to the strength that comes from enduring pain, betrayal, and hardship. This legacy isn't one of destruction. It's one of survival. It's a story of rising from the ashes, of turning scars into armor, of finding power in the very things that were meant to destroy you. And that legacy? It will outlive them. It will stand as proof that you can't crush someone who refuses to stay down. To anyone listening, if you've ever felt like you were being pushed too far, like the world was trying to crush you, remember this. Pain doesn't have to destroy you. It can transform you. The monster they created? It's not your weakness. It's your strength. And sometimes, the only way to survive in a world that wants to break you is to become the thing they fear the most. So, to those who dared to ask for the monster, here I am. And I'm not going anywhere. To those who stood by and watched, to those who thought they could control me, to those who dared to create the monster, I owe you nothing. The life I live now, the strength I wield, the path I walk, it's mine. And there's no turning back. This is not a story of defeat. It's a story of triumph. A story of becoming. And to anyone who dares to create another monster, be ready to face the consequences.